Gilbert was the name of this person. He was in the seat of the judge. He was given an 18-month prison sentence for writing bad checks. The judge then throws him in jail. But after 6 months, he broke out of jail and went across the border into Canada. During his escape, he tried to get a job so that he could stay alive in a different country with risky money. He tries to get a job as a person who sells ice cream and also has a vacuum. But he needs to fill out a form and include a copy of his ID. He found out that he didn't have an ID card. At the same time, he saw a beggar at the end of the road close to where he was standing. He went up to the beggar. He then bought the beggar's identification card. Gilbert finally got a $22 ID card. It was signed by Robert. He then gave the ice cream vendor his business card and filled out a few forms. After that, Gilbert was called Robert. In the evening, he knocked on the door of a church that had rooms for tourists several times before going inside. At last, a woman named Andrea opened the door. She let him stay there for the night. The next day, he was very excited to start selling ice cream. He bought and sold ice cream. He makes a lot of money from selling ice cream. But the goddess Fortuna is not on his side because the company where he works, which makes ice cream, has gone bankrupt and he has lost his job. After he lost his job, he went to a bar to cool off. When he got there, he found that it was run by a gangster and lawn shark named Tommy. Tommy is also on the police's list of people they want to catch, but they had a hard time doing so because they didn't have enough proof. Gilbert was getting ready to leave the bar when he ran into a well-known police officer. The name of the cop was SNZ. He is in the bar to spy on Tommy, whom he has been after the whole time. When he got home from the bar, Andrea had locked the church door, and she wouldn't let him in because it was after 11 p.m. But he didn't want to go inside the church. Instead, he asked Andrea out on a date. After 8 months, Gilbert and Andrea have moved in together. When he got home, he was surprised to find that Andrea was not there. Unintentionally, he read a newspaper that talked about how the U.S. government was trying to find him. He wasn't sure how he felt about that. He would then tell Andrea about it, even though Andrea was in the bathroom. After seeing the test results on her hand, which showed that she was pregnant at night, her face looked both worried and happy. Andrea was excited to tell everyone. But when she heard that her husband plans to leave town for a few days, she had to give up. He said he had a heavy heart and had to go to work. She let him go, and when Gilbert got to Vancouver, it turned out that he had only left to trick the police who were after him and to look for work while he was there. He's been in and out of the building more than once to look for work, but no one would accept him. He was feeling hopeless when he saw a car stealing money from a bank. From there, the seeds of his bad plans began to grow, especially after he called Andrea and found out without much thought that his wife was pregnant. Gilbert walked into the bank and watched the whole room from where the CCTV security guards were standing. After that, he went into a store. He used the excuse that he was an actor going to an audition for a movie to get some clothes. He also said that he would return it after the event was over and get the clothes. Gilbert didn't try out, it turns out. Instead, he went back into the bank and put on a security guard's uniform. He went to the bank manager and asked a lot of questions about the bank's security. He also checked out the server room for the CCTV cameras. After he had learned enough, he then called a few employees while making his voice sound different. He also told several guards who were on duty to go home. Not only that, but he also went to school to learn how to make and use silicone skin. There Gilbert stole a silicone nose. In short, the long-awaited time has come. He dressed up in this way because he was determined to rob the Royal Estate Bank for the first time. He went straight to the table of a teller named Jessica. He gave her a note that said, "Don't scream." He told Jessica that she had to give him all of the money in the drawer. He also looked like he was pointing a gun that was hidden under his coat. With a lot of worry, Jessica gave him all of the money in the table's drawer. But the problem is that Gilbert didn't have a pocket to put the money he stole from her because he kept making threats. Then Jessica put it in her small purse. When Jessica put the money in, the silicone nose Gilbert was wearing made him look like he was almost blonde. He moved quickly to get it back. After his act was over, he went to the bathroom and gave back the clothes he had borrowed. There, he took the stolen money apart and put it in a suitcase. He ran to the airport after that. When he got to the airport, he ran into a new problem. He had to go through an X-ray machine, and the money in his suitcase would be checked by airport workers. So, he put some of the money in his underwear right away and went back to the checkpoint. But to his surprise, every domestic flight was not. When the bags got to the arrivals terminal, they were run through an X-ray machine. Andrea had to wait. Then they went to Gilbert's new house, which he had just bought. He lied to his wife again about his job. He says that he runs the family business so that he can find them a new place to live. The police are questioning people who were robbed after getting married somewhere else. Then, all of a sudden, a detective named Hoffman walked up to him. Hoffman said that a gangster had robbed the store. Tommy SNDs talks to the police commander to find out if he can be arrested. But commanders can't pay for the operations they are in charge of. With a sad feeling. After that, they went on a mission to find Tommy. On the other hand, Gilbert needed a lot of money to steal even more valuable things. Then, he goes to Tommy's house to try to convince Tommy Gilbert that the bank across the street is the right place. In 3 minutes, he will rob that bank. If he could do that, he would borrow $10,000 and pay it back over 5 months with a 30% interest rate. Not waiting, he went to the questionable bank. He used the portable bathroom. Soon after, he put on clothes that made him look like a construction worker and went into the bank. Tommy looked at his watch all the time. One of the group started to question Gilbert. Even though he was 12 seconds late, he finally came back from the back door with some money. Even so, Tommy still put up with him, and Gilbert's skill impressed him. His stealing is getting more and more crazy. He robbed more than one bank at the same time. By putting on a mask and giving a piece of paper with threats written in different languages, he was able to do what he wanted. When he needs to get from one city to another, he always takes a domestic flight. From there, people started calling Gilbert the Flying Bandit. Up until that point, he had stolen money from 36 banks. He used some of the money he got from robbing people to buy cars and other high-end items. He put away in a safe. Aside from that, he could also have joined the Flight Club of the Rich. When he paid off his debt to Tommy, he got a sudden offer to rob a jewelry store, which was even crazier. Nye's plan, on the other hand, was okayed by his commanding officer. They will get a steady flow of money for the plan to catch the leader of the most dangerous gang in Canada. This thing was called Operation Project Cafe by Tommy SNS. If the arrest operation works, everyone will get a promotion. Tommy's movements are tracked by SNS and the rest of his team. And anyone else who works with Tommy, two of his right-hand men, Bishop and Dave, were the first people they tried to catch. The same was true for Gilbert, who was put under police surveillance, but the police still don't know who Gilbert really is. On the other hand, Gilbert was surprised when Andrea came into the room and saw all of Gilbert's money spread out on the bed. She wanted to know where all that money came from. If he says he got all the money by robbing a bank, he is telling the truth. Andrea, on the other hand, asked Gilbert to prove it if he only robbed a bank without hurting anyone. So, the next morning, he robbed a bank again and his wife was there to see it. Andrea was amazed by how good Gilbert was at robbing, but now she looks worried about his health. After a few minutes, he came back to meet her and bring the. When they were at home, she made him promise a few things, like that he wouldn't get caught and that Gilbert would have to quit his job someday. On the other hand, Snips can be seen lurking around Tommy's bar from a distance. A short time later, Gilbert showed up to meet. Tommy Hoffman thought the license plate was strange because the car was registered in Andrea's name, but neither of the detectives knew Gilbert. In the bar, Tommy and Gilbert are making plans to rob a jewelry store again. Tommy tells Bishop that he needs to go with Gilbert when he robs. Later, when Gilbert went to the bathroom, Snide followed him there right away. While he was waiting for Gilbert to come out of the toilet stall, he also told Tommy that he would be arrested soon or later. SND's got his hands clean. Gilbert still had some silicone blue on his face, which made SNS suspicious. This made him even more sure that the two people they had seen before were the same person. Then, they went to all the costume shops that sold the masks and bought them. In the middle of the night, while SNS was sleeping, he got a call from the police station. A drunk driver has been caught by the police. The man turns out to be Dave, Tommy's best friend. Dave said it all. Who was the man with the secret? It was Gilbert before he changed his name, and it was already called the Flying Bandit. He also said that Gilbert would do an even bigger robbery for the information he got. Gilbert took this as an insult and turned around and went straight to the place of the robbery. He was getting more and more eager to find out what happened, starting with questioning the shop owner who let Gilbert borrow clothes and ending with telling the local police that there would be a robbery in the city soon. He asked for help getting a few police officers to watch over all the banks in the area. On the other hand, Gilbert and Bishop will do the action, and they have now changed their appearance to look like camera technicians. He didn't notice that several police officers were following him around outside the building. Gilbert asked the shopkeeper to put all of the jewelry in a bag. Bishop stood by the door and watched. From there, he saw SNS walking toward the shop. Then Gilbert and Bishop stopped the police from following them right away. Still, Bishop's knife is still there, and the police used it as proof. The police kept going after them. The police didn't know who they were because they were all wearing uniforms that were also worn by other people. Snide wasn't any less smart. He pulled the fire alarm so that everyone in the mall could hear it. He told his men to go after the two guys who didn't run at all, and that's right. When Cindy saw where Gilbert and Bishop were, he ran after them right away. Gilbert kept running backwards toward the back door. SNS also lost them. Once it was safe, Gilbert called Andrea and told her to hurry up and pack because they were leaving soon and Bishop would be back at Tommy's bar. He saw that Andrea had her water when he got home. He took his wife to the hospital right away. After a few minutes, their child was born safely. On the other hand, the police have been to Gilbert's house. But the house is in bad shape and no one lives there. Gilbert had hidden somewhere with Tommy's help, but the police didn't know about it. He can get another house. Police have looked into who owned a gun that was left in a jewelry store. Gilbert feels safe in his new home right now because no one knows where he lives. In short, Gilbert raised his child day by day, and Andrea is now carrying their second child. Tommy came to see him all of a sudden. They talk on the house's porch and ask each other about their lives. Tommy also asked Gilbert what he was going to do next. He talks Gilbert into getting him to rob again. Gilbert, on the other hand, will spend his later years with his family. After Tommy left, Gilbert saw right away that his money was getting low and it made him want to rob again for the last time, but Andrea didn't like the idea. The next day, while Andrea was still asleep, he left Andrea and his child without a doubt. He also sent Andrea a letter. On the letter, he wrote down where he was at the time. Andrea didn't know that her husband had left the house when she woke up. The phone then rang several times. When she picked up the phone, SNS was asking where her husband was. Andrea said that Gilbert wasn't. Then, one by one, they called all the airports. Then SNYs read an ad in a newspaper that asked if one of the domestic airlines had gotten away from his watch. Then, his team rushed to the city where the planes were going to land, but they did it in a different place, in a hotel room. Gilbert was seen preparing his plan, but then Andrea called him out of the blue. He lied about his plans again. He just asked her to pick him up at 5 p.m. at the airport. Long story short, he did it again, along with the robbery he had done before, and did it perfectly. He left the bank when his bag was full of cash. After he changed his clothes, he called for help. If the bank had been robbed without warning, several people would have worn the same clothes as Gilbert. When they robbed the bank, the police arrested the wrong person. He used this as an opportunity to get away. He was looking for a taxi when he saw a police officer questioning a person who had been wronged. The man said that all he got was clothing. Gilbert didn't understand why no taxi went by. It turned out that all the taxis were sent to a different street. Next, Gilbert saw a car for sale, but he didn't think he was going to buy it, so he ran away. At the same time, Snitch just got to the robbery scene and showed everyone a picture of Gilbert. One of the police said that he saw the man in the photo running away and Gilbert had finally made it to the airport. But after he got on the plane, the airport found out that Gilbert was on a list of people who were being looked for. SNZ was called by the airport. SNZ wanted to stop Gilbert's flight at first, but Hoffman suggested that they let him fly and catch him when he landed. When they agreed to the plan, SNZ and Hoffman took off in a helicopter as soon as Gilbert's plane landed at the airport. Andrea picked him up there, but police cars were all around him at the same time. Gilbert was taken into custody right in front of his wife. He is talked to by SNS at the police station. Gilbert also asked Andrea to come talk to him. So far, he hasn't told her his real name, which makes her unhappy. Tommy came to see him as well. Tommy also said that he had told the police where Gilbert lived. All this time, he was found guilty of robbery with a gun and given a 20-year prison sentence and sent to the movies.